Chris Burkhardt will have Blazers Game Day starting at 5 on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio, and streaming on the iHeartRadio app. Keith Smith will join me coming up at 3:20 to discuss the Luka Doncic trade. Super Bowl 59 is set. Chiefs and Eagles begin their Super Bowl week. Kickoff Sunday in New Orleans on Fox at 3:30. KC right now is favored by 1.5. Elsewhere, the Browns star Myles Garrett has requested a trade, and Chip Kelly is officially the offensive coordinator of the Las Vegas Raiders. He leaves Ohio State to join Pete Carroll's staff. The Rip City Drive with Chad Doing is coming up next.
The home of the OSAA is 620 Rip City Radio. It's time for the Rip City Drive, brought to you by Lazy Boy. What's your strategy for comfort? Featuring the crazy and often irrational longtime Portland radio vet, Chad Doing.
Let me tell you something. The only people know Luka Doncic is the Dallas Mavericks. Guys who've been with him for years or who are around him every day. He's a great player. He's a great player. But all us talking heads, they must know something we don't know. Because, listen, he's been hurt. Everybody complains about his conditioning. But once you give a guy 5 years, $350 million, y'all are stuck together for life.
Well, I think the long term is the time frame. I think he fits our time frame. If you pair him with Kyrie and the rest of the guys, he fits right along with our time frame to win now and win in the future. And the future to me is 3-4 years from now. The future, 10 years from now, I don't know. I don't think they probably bury me and Jay by then, or we bury ourselves.
Yes. Strap in. The Rip City Drive with Chad Doing starts now.
Well, Mavericks general manager Nico Harrison is either a genius or totally insane. So Saturday night, I was here at Moda Center watching the Trailblazers and Suns from press row. Second half, late second half, the Blazers were cruising. And by the way, playing very good basketball, I might add. The youngsters are continuing to step up and get after it. You got to love what you see with the young talent with the Trailblazers right now. Scoot, Shaden, Donovan Clingan, Denny Avdia, and Tamani Kamara. They defended well, they played well, and they blew out the Suns. But late in that game, all of a sudden down in front, I sit up behind the two rows that are in front of me at press row. So you have all the usuals who are there. And I sit next to Travis, who's to my right, Curtis Long, and Travis Clinton, Michael Holton as well. And all of a sudden, everyone in front of us started erupting and turning their heads and looking at us. And I thought there was something wrong, like some type of national emergency. And I guess in a way there kind of was. The news had broke on Twitter that Luka Doncic was being traded by the Mavericks to the LA Lakers in exchange for Anthony Davis. The tweet was put out by Shams Charania, and my guess would be your reaction is similar to what we all experienced here at the game. Disbelief. Like, wait, what? The Mavericks are trading Luka for what? You've got to be kidding me. And not only that, but he's going to the Lakers? Oh, man. And you start to try and wrap your mind around such a blockbuster deal. And the crazy part was the majority of people thought that Shams had his account hacked. And then, of course, he followed up the original tweet with the trade details saying, no, this is real, which is exactly what someone who hacked an account would do if he was trying to lead credence to what he had put out there in the first place. But then we shortly got comments from Bobby Marks, and then we got the official story from ESPN, and it became evident that the trade was real. It actually went down. The Dallas Mavericks dealt Luka Doncic at age 25, a top 3 player in the world, to the LA Lakers in exchange for 31-year-old Anthony Davis and one future first-round pick. One. Can you believe that? Look at some of the deals that have gone down over the last 2 to 3 years for big-time players. No one near the level of Luka Doncic. And take a look at some of the draft picks that have been thrown around. First-round picks, high-level picks. And the Lakers gave up one future first for Luka Doncic. It's unbelievable. Now, I do want to give some credit to Nico Harrison. Now, he's known around the league as a very likable guy, easy to do business with. I got to give him props because he was willing to step up and show himself at a press conference and answer questions as to why they did what they did. There are a lot of people in business, in sports, in life that make a big decision and they disappear. They don't want to face the music. They don't want to answer questions. They don't want to deal with it. But Nico Harrison had the guts to be able to stand up and answer questions as to what had just went down. And I respect the heck out of him for that, even if I think he might be, maybe insane. But he did. He spoke and he talked about the process, which has been going on for a few weeks. And the amazing part here is how he and Rob Pelinka of the Lakers were able to keep this quiet.
Trades don't happen at the smallest level without stuff getting out. And Rob and I were able to have, really intense conversations over the course of, 3 or 4 weeks that started out as a coffee that, was more, hey, would you ever, I don't know, would I? Let me think of, and then it built upon that. And, we kept it between us. We had to keep it tight. J. Kidd didn't know about it. But J. Kidd and I are aligned, and we talk about archetypes, and we talk about the culture that we want to create. So I know the type of players that he likes without actually talking to him. Hey, would you like, so I know that. And J. Kidd coached them when they won a championship. So I think when you're aligned with your coach like that, I know the type of players that he likes. And so I felt good about it making sense to where we're trying to go.
Incredible. The Dallas Mavericks, according to reports, did not seek out any other teams. It was Nico and Pelinka who spoke over the last few weeks to get this done, and they arrived at the decision to make the move. Unbelievable to me. Now, keep in mind that Luka right now is a top 3 player in the world. If you look at the NBA landscape today, you would say your top 3 players, Jokic, and then followed by Giannis, followed by Luka Doncic. Those are your top 3. And then you can slide in SGA or whoever else you want after those 3, but those are the 3 best players in the world. And Luka is one of those guys. Now, the interesting part here is that Luka was up for a Supermax extension with the Mavericks for around $350 million. But now that he's been traded, he is no longer eligible for the Supermax because he's not going to be with the same team. So this move will cost Luka some dollars, and obviously it's going to save the Mavericks a ton of money moving forward. Nico Harrison went on to discuss the move.
Trades don't happen at the smallest level without stuff getting out. And Rob and I were able to have, really intense conversations over the course of, 3 or 4 weeks that started out as a coffee that, was more, hey, would you ever, I don't know, would I? Let me think of, and then it built upon that.
All right, if you believe what Nico Harrison is selling right now, they believe that Anthony Davis is the piece that they need to be able to get over the top and win a championship. He talked about defense, winning championships. They believe that Anthony Davis will be able to come in and solidify that. They'll have multiple bigs they'll be able to utilize. And now without Luka, it can be Kyrie Irving who will take over. Now, the speculation or the discussion around Luka is very interesting to me. We know he's a top 3 player in the world. We also know that he's not in the best shape. He's overweight. He's been nicked up a little bit. And, of course, defensively, he's not a great player. And that was on full display in the finals last year. So you can nitpick Luka's game if you want. But here's what I know about Luka. His numbers over the first several seasons of his career stack up historically against anybody's. He's also been unstoppable in the postseason. He's taken the Mavericks to a conference finals, and last year he took them to the NBA finals. He's a unique player with great size, great vision, great scoring ability. He can do just about anything he wants on a basketball floor. He's a dominant basketball player, even though he's not in the best shape possible. And as you know, I'm always critical of athletes who their number one job before anything else as a paid professional athlete is to keep their body in tip-top shape. I mean, why not? You're competing against the greatest athletes in the world, and by taking care of your body and being in the best shape possible, you can extend your career, make as much money as humanly possible, and be able to go out there on the floor and dominate. Now, for Luka, he hasn't, really zeroed in that side of his game yet, but he's still able to go out there and dominate as a slightly overweight Luka. He's been dominant. He is a great, great basketball player. The funny thing is that they're moving on from Luka, who people wonder about his availability and his conditioning, for a guy in Anthony Davis that isn't the most available player in the world, and now you've got to wonder if Kyrie Irving is about to go AWOL again? Is he going to be cool? Is he going to keep it together? Is he going to stay strong? If he does, and they get the best from Anthony Davis, the Dallas Mavericks for the rest of this year are going to be very good. There's no question about it. But the frustrating part here, I think, for Trailblazer fans is that the Dallas Mavericks just gift-wrapped Luka Doncic to the Lakers and gave them a succession plan to LeBron James. Because Luka Doncic, this play for the Lakers is not about this year or next year. This is about life after LeBron and having a star who can step up and be the center of the franchise, and he certainly will be. Because everyone in that arena is going to be wearing number 77 jerseys. And throughout the course of my life, whether it was Kareem or Wilt or Magic or Shaq and Kobe or Pau Gasol or LeBron or now Luka Doncic, the Lakers, as much as we like to try and make fun of them, they always find a way to pull a rabbit out of their hat and come up with the next big star, a big-time player to be on that stage. And for Luka Doncic, maybe being in a new environment, in a part of the country that promotes a better, healthier lifestyle, and getting a chance to be around LeBron, maybe that's going to assist in getting him in better condition. The other thing that I think is, well, it's nonsense if you listen to the initial reports. Two things. One, that Anthony Davis and LeBron James had no idea that the deal was going down. I don't believe that for 1 second, and I would imagine most of you don't either. Anthony Davis apparently was shocked at the news, right? Well, if that's the case, why was he so quick to get rid of his trade kicker and head on down to Dallas and be a part of the Mavericks? And LeBron James, who passively, aggressively will attack anyone who goes against his authority or his power, he's on board with the move and isn't showing any type of frustration or leaking out any type of message to his friends in the media. So I don't buy for a second that Clutch Sports, which has heavily involved themselves in Laker matters over the years, had no idea this was going down. There's no way possible that that's the case. I think there are a lot of people who were stunned at the move that had no idea it was going down, but I do think that AD and LeBron knew something was up, and I'm sure Clutch had some type of handle on that as well. So my initial reaction was shock. And then after taking about 24 hours to think about it, I think it's an insane move. The Dallas Mavericks just unloaded a top 3 player in the world at age 25, not in his prime yet, who's been dominating in the playoffs, and they got one future first back along with a 31-year-old Anthony Davis. I mean, the next level spin coming out of Dallas right now about defense and winning championships is laughable. Now, what was the motivation behind it? Is it because they didn't want to pay the supermax to a guy that doesn't keep his body in tip-top shape? Was there something else going on? I don't know. We're going to find out next. Keith Smith will join us to talk about this deal. We have Blazers game day coming up at 5. Tip-off with the Suns tonight at 7. And we got the Super Bowl week kicking off as we get ready for the big game coming up on Sunday. You got the Rip City Drive with Chad doing. All right, joining us right now from Spotrac and the Front Office Show, a gentleman who covers the NBA. You can follow him on social at Keith Smith NBA, and he's here on the Rip City Drive. Keith, I know you're East Coast. Where were you when you found out the news about the Luka deal?
I had just laid down in bed. I was playing one of those stupid time-wasting mobile games to wind down, and I saw it, and I was like, this isn't real. And I was like, I can't believe Shams got hacked trade deadline week like everybody else. And then I started reaching out to a couple of people. I was like, did you see this? And they were like, yeah, I don't think it's real. And then as soon as it was real, I was very quickly up and out of bed and got to work.
That's crazy. In your lifetime, is this the most wild NBA deal you've ever seen?
It is because of the fact that it came from out of absolute nowhere. Generally, when we see guys like that get traded, there's at least a sense of, all right, the guy was available. We can understand where it is. This one is hard to understand from the Mavericks' point of view. It came from out of nowhere. I mean, they one of the more incredible things is how quiet they kept this entire thing. I don't know, how in this day and age you're able to pull that off. And now I'm hopeful, hey, maybe we get even more of that going around, in the league, because it was fun to get surprised like this. But yeah, I'm still, we're now a couple days clear, and I'm still, trying to wrap my head around it.
Yeah, me too. So with the people you've spoken with, what have you uncovered so far as to why the Mavericks would do this?
Yeah, it's all the same stuff that they've kind of said both openly and that has been reported out there. Is that they love Anthony Davis. They think he can be the linchpin guy to a championship level of defense. They really feel like this is the guy we can build things around, and he's really good. He's going to pair well with Kyrie Irving, and that's going to be great for us moving forward. So that's kind of part one, and then part two of it is there seem to be some actual worries with Luka. Like, is he going to be healthy going forward, or are we going to run it? I've heard it phrased elsewhere. No one said it direct to me this way, but I have read it. Is it going to turn into a Joel Embiid situation where he's constantly in and out of the lineup because is he committed enough to taking care of himself to be at the level he needs to be? Now, my mindset is I'm like, well, we got a guy in Denver who's not super committed to being a specimen, and he's maybe going to win a fourth MVP. I don't know that we need to do that. I go back to Luka is a guy you can start each season, and you're just instantly, all right, he's on the top 5 MVP candidate list, and you move on and go from there. Now you don't have that guy, and that guy's also only going to be 26 years old at the end of the month. It's just really tough to understand.
Yeah, that's the part that's frustrating for me, Luka being only 25 years old, not even in his prime yet. Even if you have concerns about someone like Luka when it comes to conditioning and getting his body right, wouldn't you want to wait a little bit longer before you jump ship on Luka?
You would think so. Now, I do kind of get their thought process of if this is even remotely out there and didn't get done, it was probably going to be, at some point, it was going to be out there for the world. And then at that point, you run into some real issue with it. And I think that is why it was, we have this opportunity to do this right now. And if we don't do it right now, kind of in the cover of darkness, then we might not be able to do it. Then we're going to have to go another way. I was also told Dallas, their biggest reason for not saying, hey, Luke is available, everybody make us their best offer, is there was some fear of then the best offer that was made was going to be one of these, here's 9 draft picks, some matching salary, and some kids, and let's go. And they did not have any desire to kick off a full-scale rebuild. They did not want to do that. They think Anthony Davis keeps them in contention to get back to the finals. So that's why they did this now, because they just weren't sure it'd be there later.
How many first-round picks could they have gotten had they decided they wanted to go young and bring in the young assets, do you think?
I don't know. Despite what I do, I'm not all that great on math in my head on the fly, but let's just say all of them. I mean, it's being a little snarky, but the Spurs, for example, the Spurs had 16 first-round picks or something like that they had prior to making their trade for De'Aaron Fox, where they moved some of them. They could have sent out all of their own with swaps in between, plus all of their extras, plus seconds, plus a bunch of stuff, and paired Luka and Wemby and been like, guys, we're good for the next half decade or more. we'll figure it out. So I think that is, that's kind of the answer there. You could have gotten a ton. I asked on Twitter, for your favorite team, what would you have offered if Luka was just out there on the open market for every team to make an offer? Once you filter through the stupid responses, you got it. I got a lot of people who were, I would have given up multiple picks plus this really good player, because I think everybody seemingly outside of the Mavericks front office had a real understanding of Luka Doncic is great. He's young, and you young stars don't become available very often.
We're talking with Keith Smith from Spotrac and Front Office Show here on the Rib City Drive. The part that's crazy to me is with Luka, when you place him in the top three, it's it's probably Jokic, Giannis, and Luka. That's your top three in the world right now?
Yeah, and if you were talking about top three, hard to trade, nearly untouchable, it would have been those three, and then it would have added Victor Wembanyama in there as well.
Yes.
Just because he's so young and everything he is. But it's funny because now I literally have, one of my go-to phrases is, I guess that works in the trade machine, but they're not going to do that. I have to eliminate that from my vocabulary because now I don't really know. I like Giannis's comment, hey, let's put Jokic in New York. Let's get crazy with this. It is funny. It is, this is now, it really does have the league somewhat shook because a lot of guys are man, if they can trade Luka, I better, make sure, where my standing is with this franchise.
Dude, that's so good, Keith. That's exactly what this trade was. It was one of those crazy trade machine things that we get from fans right around the trade deadline where they're trying to obtain a star for nothing, and that's what the Lakers got. One first-round pick in the future, and Anthony Davis for Luka is crazy. And the other part that I know he's not in the best condition right now, but throughout the first 7 years of his career, Keith, you know this, his numbers compare with any of the greats of the past, and he's been dominant in the postseason coming off a finals run.
Yeah, I don't care if he shows up and he's 400 pounds. If he's playing the way he plays, who cares, right? It doesn't really matter. If your real concern is hey, as he continues, to put on some weight, he's not healthy, it's causing injuries. Well, yeah, you don't want it to be like Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid is awesome when he plays. The problem is it just doesn't happen enough. And if that is a real concern, then okay, I kind of understand where you're coming from. But again, he's 25. Then talk to him, right? Try to get it right. Like you said, you gotta give that another real try here. Hey, come on, man, let's try to get you recommitted. That's the crazy part. Now for the Los Angeles Lakers, you have your post-LeBron future completely set. Whenever that comes. Whether that is, in the next few days, I don't think that's going to be the case, or that's, this summer, or that's, a year from now. Whenever it comes, you've got your guy. And now you're basically going to walk in to all your free agent pitches after LeBron is gone, and you're going to say, hey, it's Luka, it's L.A., it's, a bunch of cap space. You want to come here? And guys are going to be like, yeah, let's go. Because everybody wants to play with him because that's the kind of guy he is. So, this is just one of those things where it's right place at the right time, and now the Lakers are set up long-term in a way that they weren't, a couple days ago.
So, Keith, with the fact that Nico only dealt with Rob Pelinka, would this indicate that the Mavericks valued Anthony Davis somewhere on the same level they did Luka?
Yeah, I think so. I think they really did. Now, personal opinion, I think that's a bit of a misevaluation. I like Anthony Davis. It is funny now. People are going to such lengths to kill the Mavericks here over what they did that it's they've turned Anthony Davis into a role player. He's really, really good. He's actually been pretty healthy with the Lakers the last couple of years too. So
yes.
He's a great player. So you're in a spot where you should feel pretty good about this one. But yeah, I mean it's just Anthony Davis, Max Christie's a nice role player. Don't get me wrong, but then in one first-round pick, come away without getting both of the first-round picks. It all just feels like a real misevaluation on how good AD is.
All right, I've got three more questions for you. First off, what are we thinking about Nico Harrison 2 years from now?
If you listen to his press conference, he said, nobody's in these jobs very long, so I don't even know if he'll still be there. I don't even know what his plan is at this point. But, yeah, let's see. I am always open to let's see what comes next. Right, it's ridiculous how much I love the movie Draft Day, but I love when Kevin Costner's character says, "Will you let me work and see what I come up with. Like, I think there's a little bit of that going on here, and this doesn't look great right now. But if they turn some of this now excess big man depth that they have, another on-ball creator, and Kyrie is happy, things are going. There's a way this ends up really good for the Mavericks. I think they have a chance to be pretty good here in the next, for the rest of this season, and then at least the next couple of years. It's just, is your ceiling lower? Yeah, probably, because you don't have Luka, but I'm open to the fact that maybe Nico Harrison can figure some stuff out.
All right, do you think this move involving Luka and AD might open things up with the trade deadline coming up on Thursday?
I think so, because I think now what you have is it's already been crazy, because right on the heels of that, we had the big 3-team trade where De'Aaron Fox landed with the Spurs and Zach LaVine to the Kings. Do you have Jimmy Butler still available? Brandon Ingram, the entire Nets roster is available. The Hawks have made Bogdan Bogdanovic and Clint Capella available. The Trailblazers have a whole bunch of their veteran guys out there. Teams, as you talk to teams around the league, they recognize Boston's the defending champs are really good. Cleveland and OKC got off to these wonderful starts, even if they've come back to the pack a little bit here as we've flipped into 2025. But there's no fear of those teams. So this is not the Warriors and Cavs, where for 4 years running it was like, why are we even going to load up? We can't beat them unless we get extremely lucky. So now teams are like, yeah, we can take them. Why not? Let's go for it. Let's go get our guys. So I think the fact that you have these star players available with the addition of several teams are like, hey, we're in this thing. Let's try to go get someone. I think we're in for a wild couple more days. It's saying that on that back of what happened over this weekend.
That's awesome. Keith Smith is with us. One final question for you. How do you like the fit with De'Aaron Fox and Wemby?
Yeah, I love that fit. I've been referring to that trade all day as the Spurs hit a home run because they got De'Aaron Fox without giving up all that much. The Kings hit a 2-run double because they got Zach LaVine and at least one kind of nice pick. And the Bulls struck out looking and their pants fell down as they walked back to the dugout. They just did not get enough in that trade. LaVine is good. Zach LaVine's a nice litmus test for folks who, how closely are they actually following the NBA? Are they just repeating talking points that are a year or more old, where LaVine's on a bad contract, he's hurt all the time. He's been healthy, he's been having the best year of his career, and his contract no longer looks, all that onerous. So I think the Kings did okay. Spurs did great. I think Fox and Wembanyama moving forward is going to be a great pairing in. They kept all of the good stuff that they needed to trade for whoever the third guy is and the next guy to come in alongside those two. The Spurs are in great shape moving forward.
So in baseball terms, what did the Lakers get? A Bach or maybe a golden sombrero? What do you think?
Yeah, I think the Lakers landed a player to be named later that turns into a multi-time All-Star. Because I don't know how much Luka is going to help this season, just because now that Lakers roster is so weird. But you landed a guy who, this is like landing a guy who is, he was a late-season call-up and hit 20 home runs in the span of a month and a half, and somehow you got him before he even hit his prime. Like, unbelievable for them.
I said Lakers. I meant Mavericks. Mavericks get the golden sombrero.
Mavericks, listen, you got an aging superstar there, and maybe it'll work out okay, but no one feels good about the young guy you gave up.
All right, Keith Smith covers the NBA, does a heck of a job for Sport Track and also the front office show. Keith, I really appreciate the time, man. Enjoy it. It's going to be a wild week for you leading up to Thursday.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. Thanks so much for having me.
There you go, Keith Smith. Yeah, it's insane. What the Mavericks did is crazy. And, look, I like Nico Harrison. That's a good dude right there. But this is going to be a move that will eventually cost him his job unless they're able to somehow put together a championship run. And I think they will be good this year and possibly next year. But it is absolutely crazy to trade a player of Luka's caliber, top 3 player in the world, who's not even 26 years old yet, not even in his prime by basketball standards, and get one future first. Because here's the problem. Your 2 stars now in Anthony Davis and Kyrie Irving, they're both aging. They're at the end of their prime. And so what happens when those guys are done? You don't have the draft capital that you should have gotten in return for Luka to rebuild. That's the part that doesn't make any sense. If you can get past the idea of trading Luka, which is insane, and you think, okay, we're concerned about him being fat, and we're concerned about him being fat and making $350 million on the Supermax extension. So we're going to look to move him. Then you have to get young assets in return, not one future first. Man, Rob Pelinka, he just absolutely pulled the wool over his eyes. Good gracious. And he goes to the Lakers, who are now set up for the next decade after Braun is out. Well, it doesn't make any sense to me. Luka Doncic is unbelievable. Unbelievable. Yes. Could he mix in a salad? Yes. Does he need to consider conditioning? Yes. But he's still young. You can work with him to get him on track. You don't abandon a top 3 player he's literally top 3. That's how good he is. He's a top 3 player. Jokic, Giannis, Luka. Those are your 3 best right there. And they just dealt them away for nothing. I don't want to say nothing because I do like Anthony Davis, and his reputation is not what he's actually been over the last couple of years. He's been available. He's a very good player, but he's 31. Oh, my goodness. I would hate to be a Maverick fan. How would you like to be a Maverick fan today? I mean, I've heard from Blazer fans over the last few years with the losing and, the rebuilding and how frustrating it is. Imagine on Friday you're a Mavericks fan and you got Luka, and then on Saturday night he's going to the Lakers, and you get AD, and you've got Kyrie, and Luka's gone. No more Luka. It would be hard to wrap my dome around that one as a Mavericks fan. Thank God I'm not a Mavericks fan. At least with the Trailblazers now, we got young, developing talent that's looking pretty nice. But if you're a Mavericks fan, you're like, wait, what? You just traded who? They're screaming Nico's name right now. Wild. Absolutely wild. And if you're Luka right now, you got a chance to go and be a part of a great franchise. The 2 best franchises in basketball are the Celtics and Lakers, or at least that's the way it's been in my lifetime and even before my lifetime. So now he gets a chance to go to that stage. And they just took gasoline and dumped it on the Luka fire because he's probably going to have a little bit of FU inside of him, like any great competitor, and I wouldn't be surprised if he dialed it up a notch when it comes to the conditioning. And maybe being around LeBron will help. I don't know. Maybe it will. Maybe LeBron can assist Luka in some better eating choices. But he's one of those guys who he can ball when he's fat. And I respect guys like that. Like if you're fat and you can ball out, I just respect it a great deal. Jokic has been, as he put it, pudgy for most of his career. He did drop some weight, and he's able to play big minutes, not being the most well-conditioned athlete. Maybe he is well-conditioned. He just doesn't look well-conditioned because he's not like a cut dude. And Luka's never going to be that guy either. But he's been dominant in the postseason. He just took him to the NBA Finals. And he's a unique player, one of the most uniques I've seen. Unique with his size and his movements, his passing. He can see over the top of the defense. Wow. Nico. Say it ain't so, my friend. All right, we'll keep things rolling here on the Rip City Drive. You want to jump on board, 503-248-0620. Chris Burkhart will have Blazers Game Day live here from Moda Center coming up at 5 on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, some of the reports that are coming out on this Doncic deal are wildly fascinating. A recent in-depth report by ESPN's Ramona Shelburne and Tim McMahon shed light on the underlying factors that may have contributed to the Dallas Mavericks' decision to trade Doncic. The report revealed that Doncic's conditioning and off-court habits had become a source of concern for the Mavericks organization. According to the report, Doncic's weight fluctuated throughout the season, often exceeding the team's preferred range of 245 pounds, but he frequently played in the 250 to 255 range or higher. In fact, his 11-day absence in November due to a right wrist sprain was to give him time to shed weight, since he was in the high 260s, one team source commenting, quote, "I mean, who gains weight during the season when you're playing 40 minutes a game?" Furthermore, the report highlighted the Mavericks' concern regarding Doncic's personal body team, a group of professionals including Slovenian national team strength coach Anze Macic and psychotherapist Javier Calvo and nutritionist Lucia Almendras from Real Madrid. This has now been corroborated by more reporting. Former Mavericks senior basketball analyst Jeremiah Engelman recently described why he urged the team to move on from Doncic for 2 years. His big concerns were fourfold: the laissez-faire approach to everything on defense, falling asleep in critical defensive situations, a lack of off-ball movement on offense, the tendency to take exciting but ill-advised shots, especially in critical in-game situations. Engelman goes on to describe not only those problems on the court, but also that pesky off-the-court lack of self-control, which Engelman describes as, quote, a lack of professionalism. As noted, there were some indication that Doncic on the court didn't have the internal fire to win every game, every possession. Off the court, Doncic likewise caused reason for doubt. How much was he willing to commit to winning? He rarely appeared to be in shape, and his dietary choices became a constant topic of discussion around the team. How many players in the NBA have a desire to win every single play? Every game, every possession. Tamani Kamara, that's about it. I mean, this is pretty heavy in terms of laying it on top of Doncic right there. Look, I understand the guy needs to drop a few lbs. There's no question about it. He plays fat. He's also really good as a fat guy. Really good. In fact, his numbers over the first 7 years of his career, they compare with all the greats, like Oscar Robertson, you name it. And he's been flat out nasty and dominant in the postseason. The financial end of this, too, if you have concerns about a guy's commitment or dedication or conditioning, the Supermax would probably be a reason for concern. Wait a second. You want us to give you $350 million so that we're joined at the hip, and yet you won't take your conditioning a little more serious? Well, he's only 25 years old, so what you do is you sit down with him and you talk to him. And you do whatever is necessary to get him on track instead of bailing on him. And then you move him out for an aging Anthony Davis. And now they got Kyrie. And they got one first-round pick in exchange. It's crazy. Unbelievable. And now he's going to go to the Lakers. And keep in mind, this is not about the Lakers this year or next year. Rob Pelinka did not make this move to make the team better today. That's not his great concern. What he did was set the franchise up moving into the future. So whether LeBron plays one more year after this season or 2 more years after this season, when he's done, the Lakers will have their new franchise cornerstone, Luka Doncic. And there you have it. So if I was Luka now, I would take this time to get in the best shape possible, and I would rededicate myself to conditioning, and then I would make the Mavericks pay for the way that they're throwing me under the bus right now. That's how I would handle it. And that's the approach I would take. And, you know, for great athletes, guys like Luka Doncic, I believe that there's that fire inside to where they're eventually going to take a look at themselves in the mirror and say, okay, I've got to tighten things up a little bit. I got to tighten it up and take it to the next level. I want to tighten it up and be in better condition and be able to play at a lighter weight so I can move better on both ends of the floor and see how good I really can be. That's the scary part about Luka. He's already dominant, top 3 player in the world, you know, overweight. Can you imagine Luka in tip-top shape? It's kind of a scary thought. So there you have it. In regards to De'Aaron Fox going to San Antonio, it's annoying because I don't like the Spurs, but I love the pairing. De'Aaron Fox is one of my favorite players in the league to watch. He's lightning quick with the basketball in his hands, one of the fastest guys end-to-end in the NBA. He's going to fit perfectly with Victor Wembanyama. And Wemby and De'Aaron Fox together, that's something that I think you can watch. So there you have it. I'm still stunned. I think the Mavericks made a big mistake. And the fact that they made this move without getting young assets in return is mind-boggling. And this whole spin that they're putting out there about winning a championship, trying to compete right now, and defense wins championships, it's next-level spin. It's crazy talk. A top 3 player in the world, and they just shipped him off to L.A. at age 25. And he didn't talk to anybody else. No auction. You didn't try and drive up the price. They didn't bring anybody else in because they, according to Keith Smith, wanted Anthony Davis, which means they valued Anthony Davis at the same level that they did Luka. How crazy is that? And I like Anthony Davis, but he ain't Luka. And he's not young like Luka. Oh, my goodness. That was a shocker. That was a shocker, and everyone else was shocked. Coach Billups, he was shocked. He actually was asked at the game because they found out right before the end of the game when this all went down. Unbelievable. And Coach Billups was asked about that, his reaction.
There's still, I think most people are still kind of in disbelief to see a guy to be traded right now, and obviously to the Lakers. So the first thing you say, everybody just say Luka's to the line. I'm like, well, for who? And then obviously you find out, it's AD. So, man, it's an interesting move. A team that went to the finals. We'll see how it plays out.
You guys play them. You guys play the Lakers right after the All-Star break. Now you got to plan for Luka again. You thought you were done with them this year.
Yeah. We have to plan for Luka and LeBron. How about that? It's pretty crazy, but we'll see when we get there.
There you have it. How's that going to look with Luka and LeBron on the floor together? I mean, it's probably not going to go great, I would think. But I've found that even with Luka and Kyrie, smart basketball players, who have a tremendous amount of talent, they can usually find a way to make it happen. It's going to be wildly fascinating to watch because you have, two incredible players. The only question I have is that both guys do need the ball in their hands. So how's that going to play out? I don't know, but I'm here to watch, and I'll sit back and enjoy it. I can tell you that much. And think about the Lakers. How many 77 jerseys are they going to sell over the next couple of weeks? A ton. All right, we'll keep things rolling. I do have some thoughts on the Trailblazers. I'm really enjoying watching this team play right now. The young talent, and now you can see the light at the end of the tunnel. And Tamani Kamara is a straight badass. And now he's a guy. If there's a guy in the NBA that cares about every possession, every game, every play, because they want to win and compete, Tamani Kamara is your guy. He'll get up in your grill. He'll talk smack to you, and he gets physical. And he's starting to get the respect of the officials, and you know how annoying that is for other players in the league? They don't want to be guarded all game long. You don't want Tamani Kamara up in your face for 48 minutes, and yet he's going to do that every game because he's insane, and I love that about him. And Denny Avdia is not far behind. Both those guys be crazy. How long has it been? Just give us a wing, any wing, a 3-and-D, and now the Blazers got 2 of them, and they're both psychotic out there playing defense. And Avdia is sneaky physical, too, by the way. I'm very happy with those 2 guys. All right, we'll keep things rolling here. I'm sitting in Section 230 right now at the Pines, and I'm freezing my tail off. It's a little chilly right now. I'll tell you how my daughter, what she thought of the Luka trade. We got the Rip City Drive.
need to know. From the Goldberg Jones Sports Desk, your 620 Rip City Radio headlines. Goldberg Jones. Call 1-800-DIVORCE.
All right, 4 o'clock. What's up, Chad here? The Trailblazers, they're on fire. They've won 7 of their last 8. They're back in action tonight as they play the second of 2 at Moda against the Suns. Portland recorded a 127-108 victory on Saturday night. Tip-off is scheduled for 7. Chris Burkhardt is standing by. He'll have Blazers game day from Moda at 5 on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. Keith Smith from Front Office Show and Sport Track, he joined the show. You can podcast it on the iHeartRadio app. Super Bowl 59 is set. It's going to be the Chiefs and Eagles from New Orleans Sunday. Kickoff on Fox at 3:30. And right now, the Chiefs, a 1.5-point favorite. Elsewhere, Brown star Myles Garrett has requested a trade. And Chip Kelly is officially the offensive coordinator of the Las Vegas Raiders as he leaves Ohio State to join Pete Carroll's staff. Got more of the Rip City Drive with Chad Doing coming at you right now.
The home of the OSAA is 620 Rip City Radio.
All right, my daughter Kaylee, she's pretty sharp, and she's got the gift of gab, like most young teenage girls do. So I was talking with her about the Luka trade, and she was intrigued by it. And I was explaining how Luka is a top 3 player in the world, superstar, and Anthony Davis is a very good player, but he's a little bit older now, longer in the tooth. And they've got Kyrie, who also is longer in the tooth. But Luka's a big-time superstar. Superstar, top 3. It is Jokic, Giannis, and Luka. Those are your 3 best players in the world right now in basketball. And so I was explaining the trade and how they didn't get any young assets in return except for 1 first-round pick. And now when Kyrie and AD are done, Dallas won't have the tools to be able to rebuild their franchise. And it's kind of a messy situation. And my daughter, who likes to go to Sephora because they have all the nice products for the hair and the makeup and the this and that, she said, so it's like Sephora getting rid of all their good products and loading up their stores with drugstore products. And I said, yeah, that's pretty much it. And that's exactly what Kaylee told me about Luka and AD. So I'm trying to make sense of it, and I can't. And the people I know in Dallas can't make sense of it either. And either Nico Harrison is a genius or this is going to blow up in his face. But my guess would be, and I was just talking with Burkhardt about this, it very well could be this. Because Nico Harrison, for him to get up there and say the things that he did with all the spin about defense and trying to compete now for a championship, it doesn't make sense. And so what does make sense is that it could come down as something very simple. The ownership did not want to pay the Supermax for Luka because they don't want to pay the money. $350 million is a lot of dough. They may not feel comfortable paying that type of steep price for Luka, and therefore they opted to move him. And then you can throw in the other ancillary topics as well. $350 million on a Supermax where you're going to be joined at the hip for a guy that's not in tip-top shape, although he continues to ball out every single season he's in the NBA. He's not as serious with the nutrition, the work ethic, the this and the that, the defense, if you want to nitpick, right? So they decide they don't want to pay it. Nico Harrison's job is to go and take bullets for the ownership. That's what you do. If they come to a decision and say, we want this done, make the deal, then you have to go out there and you've got to sell it and take bullets for ownership. That makes a lot more sense to me than what Nico's trying to sell me. And I like Nico, good guy. But when you start selling me on how this is what's best for the team and we're trying to win now, and you get rid of Luka and you get 1 future first, like I'm just trying to wrap my mind around it. So that's what I think is possible. Ownership's like, no, we're not doing it. We're not going to do it. We're not going to pay it. And then Nico has to go out there and take bullets. So something to consider there. Now for the Trailblazers who are going to be playing tonight, a lot of things to be excited about right now. The young talent is emerging, and they're continuing to play well. They've won 7 of their last 8. And the beauty of it is that we're seeing the young guys now with Scoot and Shaden, with the limited minutes that Klingen has played, he's been very productive this year, and especially the two forwards with Avdia and Kamara. Those guys are balling out on both ends of the floor. So we're seeing now the young talent starting to really take hold. And I think what's impressive to me is how the young guys, are now starting to have a better understanding of what the coaches want them to do and how the coaches want them to execute. And so we're seeing improvement on defense. We're seeing improvement with the offense and the movement and the way guys are sharing the basketball. And this commitment to defense, we're seeing it now from a variety of different guys. Great defensive performance from the veteran Jeremy Grant on Saturday. Obviously, Tamani Kamara sets the tone for the entire team along with Avdia because those guys are grinding constantly. But Scoot Henderson's defense over the last few weeks has been much improved. And then Klingen throughout the year has been a terrific rebounder and shot blocker. He just doesn't get as many minutes, but that will come with time. So the exciting part for me watching this team win games right now is seeing the young guys produce, seeing the young guys continue to develop and go to the next level. And that gives you a great idea of where the Trailblazers are at moving forward. They have 5 guys, and you know the 5, Scoot, Shaden, Klingen, Denny Avdia, Tamani Kamara. Those 5 guys are the young pieces, the building blocks moving into the future, in combination with whatever pieces they'll get this summer, namely the NBA draft. And so when you add those 5 with what they're going to get in the summer, and obviously we hope it's Cooper Flagg, but whoever it is they get in the draft, then you continue to move forward. But the way that they're playing right now, I'm starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel for what they've been through for the last few years of rebuilding and going into the draft. We're starting to see some definition now, individual improvement, but most importantly, those guys together as they get more time on the floor together, better understanding of one another, and also an ability to really take what the coaches are teaching them and apply it. We're seeing the result, and they're playing good basketball. And the other thing, too, I know a lot of fans out there, you're frustrated with Billups. You don't like Billups because they've been losing a lot over the last few years. Maybe you don't like Billups because it was Neil Olshey that hired him, whatever the case may be. He and his staff have done a good job with the young players, and we're seeing that come together in terms of how they're playing and how they're competing, which is terrific. So I like what I see, and I haven't had this much fun watching the Trailblazers play basketball for the last few years. But the way they're winning right now with their youth and getting it done defensively is very encouraging. And the 2 wing players of Avdia and Kamara are just freaks. Those guys are so hungry and so willing to go out there and dedicate themselves to the defensive end that it sets a tone for everybody else on the team. And they just do it night in and night out. And they're hungry. And they want to get after it, which is great. And I want to see more of that, and I'm hoping tonight we'll see more of the same because they locked down Phoenix on Saturday night. I mean, they were dominant in their approach. Well, Shaden Sharp off the bench, 16 points, once again aggressive, and ever since he got moved to the bench because of poor defense, he's been better with his assignments, and Coach talked about his performance after the game on Saturday.
Yeah, I love his aggressiveness right now, and I love he's picking the ball up the floor. Defensively he's been so much better as well, but man, I'm just loving how he's playing. He's looking for a shot. He's going in there getting tough rebounds. Yeah, he's playing really well.
All right, one other thing I want you to hear from Coach. We saw this particularly in the second half when they were really trying to mess up Phoenix. The press, the full court press and bringing the pressure. Here's what Coach had to say about that.
Yeah, well, what I tell our guys is an NBA game is never over. It just isn't. Guys can, with 3-point shots so prevalent now, guys can get going. You go on a 9-0 run, 12-2. The game is never over. So you gotta stay aggressive the entire time. And I was happy to see our guys just do that. We wanted to just try to wear on this team, knowing that they played last night. You catch a game on a team on a back-to-back. You want to try to wear them down. I thought we stuck to that.
Yeah, young and hungry. The Trailblazers are young and hungry, and I'm very happy for Scoot. Scoot's had his ups and downs over the first 2 years of his career. I think we've all seen that. But what I appreciate about him is the level-headed approach, his demeanor. He always has a positive attitude. He has a unique way as a young man to be able to deal with some of the frustrations that come with trying to adjust to being a point guard in the NBA. And his work ethic is consistent. He puts in the time. He continues to grind, and now we're starting to see some of the fruits of his labor with the work that he puts in and the way that he continues to get after it. The other thing that's nice about Scoot, and we're seeing it now defensively, but his body, he is really constructed well for a young man. The quad development, the shoulders, the arms, like his body is strong and he's so athletic. And what's been nice the last week is like watching him finish around the rim, absorbing some contact and being able to finish, better decision making. And now we just got to hope that outside shot will continue to fall for him. But you can see when he's on the floor, when he's got the ball, when he's making decisions, there's more confidence there. And with Shaedon Sharpe, look, his talent is limitless. But he's been very aggressive over the last week. We've seen a variety of different moves. The step-back three, he can attack the rim. He's great in transition, had that windmill jam on Saturday, which was absurd. But he's got the entire array. He can do everything. So what I want from him is just to continue to be aggressive. Don't be passive, Shaedon. How many times does coach have to tell you, if you can take it over, take it over? He's got that type of ability, so we got to continue to hope that they can light a fire underneath his tail to get him to continue to attack and be aggressive. Because when he does, and he set the tone with his play on Saturday night, we see what they can do. All right, I want to bring in my man Brendan, who I think has got some thoughts on the Luka deal and Nico Harrison and this madness that went down over the weekend. What you got for me, Brendan?
Yeah, Chad, I agree so much with what you said at first hour, where it's like the Lakers always seem to have a star. And you think back to, like, the purgatory that they were in post-Kobe and before they got LeBron, when, Portland was beating up on them. Everyone was, those, I want to say, like, 2017 to, like, 2020. And it's fascinating to me that for a single first-round pick, I mean, Chad, we've heard some of the guys on the Blazers roster would fetch a higher price, at least in Joe Cronin's mind, than one first-round pick. So that's unfathomable, and it's just like you almost have to put your hands up and be like, how do the Lakers just continue to do this? I mean, don't get me wrong, they got the L.A. and the glitz and glam, but, so does a couple other teams in the NBA, so it's just fascinating to me. And like many of the rest of you, it was pretty hard, Chad, to focus on the final 3-4 minutes of the Blazer game when that went down. I mean, I was shocked. Thought Shams was hacked, like all the rest of you all thought. It was like world news happening in real time. Just fascinating.
Yeah, the Lakers have always found a way. Wilt, Kareem, they came up with that crazy contract for Magic, like 25 years for $25 million back in the day. They got Shaquille O'Neal to come over from Orlando. They drafted Kobe. And then after Shaq left, Kobe threatened to walk, and they got Pau Gasol. And then after they won a couple of championships, LeBron comes in. The amazing part for the Lakers, think about this, they get Anthony Davis, and he wins a championship with LeBron, and they're able to move Anthony Davis multiple years later and get Luka Doncic. That's some high-level bleep right there. It's absolutely wild. All right, we'll keep things rolling. I'll see if I can get my man Chris Burkhardt to throw on a headset and try to make sense of this madness that's gone down. Tip-off is coming up tonight at 7. Another matchup with the Trailblazers and Suns, and Chris Burkhardt will have Blazers Game Day at 5. You can find me on social at Chad and Rip City, and the telephone number is 503-248-0620. You got the Rip City Drive. All right, Chris Burkhardt is here with me. Now that you've had 48 hours to let this sit in a little bit, Burke, have you been able to make any type of sense from the Dallas Mavericks side of things with this Luka trade?
Well, no, it still feels like a rudderless ship who's trying to they're just trying to make sense of it so that they all look good. You got to go watch the video of that presser. You can't tell me that when Nico's trying to put the spin on it, that Jason Kidd is just not as uncomfortable as possible and just like, yeah, you just took one of the 3 best players in the league off my roster. Thanks, guy.
Top 3. Right now, the 3 best players in the world are Jokic, Giannis, and Luka.
My biggest thing with this trade, Chad, is you can sit there and you can spin it any way you want, which he has, right? The defense this, the out of shape this, blah, 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 blah. We're in a win now mode. Win now mode, Luka took you to the NBA Finals. Luka took you there. He has been a certified triple-double, basically, anytime he's on the court, and you looked at your roster and you didn't think that he was good enough to take you back? You couldn't have shipped Kyrie and maybe got some bigs and some defenders and things that could help you? That just makes no sense to me. It's like the Blazers sitting there looking at C.J. McCollum and Damian Lillard in their prime, and they're like, you know what? I think we're just going to randomly trade Damian Lillard. Like, why? It just makes no sense. Man.
That's why I love what Keith Smith said. He made a great point. This trade, the one that somehow Rob Pelinka pulled off, is a crazy trade machine type idea that a fan would come up with. Hey, we'll take Luka. We'll give you AD and a future first.
That's the thing. That was the first thing I saw on social. That was like, now that this trade went down, every single fake NBA trade machine idea holds water. Everything's on the table. We can't look at anyone and say that's a dumb idea. That's a dumb idea. I mean, I get it. I totally get that Anthony Davis is still really good. We are underselling that he is still a very dominant big, but you sacrificed years and years and years of potential success for hoping that you strike lightning in the bottle within, the next 2 seasons.
Yeah, and Anthony Davis is still good, and I like Anthony Davis, but he doesn't move like he used to.
No.
He's not as effective as he used to be. All right, so Section 113, Saturday night. I'm sitting up above you, and I can see the 2 rows below me. I had my headset on, so I couldn't really hear much because I was listening to Trav's, and Michael's call of the game. And then all of a sudden, the chaos ensued with noise, and you guys all flipped your heads around and stuff like that. So how did it break out on press row with you?
So this is what happened. And I'm sitting there, and I am the guy who is like, I just love it. So my Woj notes were always on, and my Shams notifications have never been turned off, right? So all of a sudden my watch vibrates, and I look down, and I'm like, no. And so I'm looking, I'm like, this ain't real. And I look over at Sean, and Sean's like, what? And as soon as I look over at Sean, then you see Dan Marengo sitting next to him. He sees it. And then all the guys behind us, Gunderson and Connor, like everyone's like, oh, my, what? We all thought it was hacked. I remember I look at you because people don't know. You're 2 rows behind me. I'm trying to get your attention, but you're on air, and you're kind of like, what? And I'm like, Shams. You're like, what? And I finally just point at my phone, and then you grab your phone, and you see it, and you're just, your eyes got so big, looked like you had 2 softballs sitting in front of your face, and we're just like, it's fake, and the next thing you know, you get the next tweet from Shams, this is 100% real, and we're like, that's exactly what a hacker would say. This is real, believe me, here's a link to my crypto site. But then you started seeing all the other reporters from LA, and then the official ESPN website quote it, and you're like, no, this is a real tweet. All I remember is that happened somewhere around about the 5-minute mark. And all of a sudden, the confetti shoots from the rafters, right? The streamers, and me and Sean look at each other, and Sean's like, I haven't even written my post-game notes, and I'm like, yeah, I don't have my microphone and camera ready for our post-game hit. This last 5 minutes was a blur.
You guys asked Chauncey Billups about it in the post-game presser. The cool part about this news was the players and the coaches were just as freaked out at the news as we were.
Right. They
caught off guard.
They had no idea. I will never forget, for as long as I live, I will never forget watching a fan show Damian Lee the tweet on his phone, and Damian Lee going, what? Luka's been traded, and then he sprints over to referee Zach Zarba and tells Zach Zarba. Then when they inbound the ball, he runs over to the Blazers bench before he heads down the court to tell them. We asked Chauncey to confirm. We're like, what was he saying to your bench? Like, he was telling us about the Luka trade. We all knew about it by then. Or you see the videos like with Kevin Durant. It's wild, man.
The crazy part about the trade, going into every season, there are certain guys you're like, they're not going to trade him. He's untouchable. That's never going to happen. With this trade, we now know that anyone is available at any time. Anyone can be traded now.
This trade, it either proves that everyone is available or that Dallas might have a pretty bad GM. I did see one of the social media reactions was that Jerry Jones can sleep easy knowing that he's not the worst GM in Dallas anymore.
So trying to make sense of Nico Harrison, because I thought his press conference, while I give him credit for doing it, I thought there was a lot of spin job going on by Nico. Is it possible that the new ownership group just wants nothing to do with paying Luka $350 million on that Supermax, and therefore they said make the deal, and so Nico had to go out there and just take the bullets for the ownership group?
It very well could be possible, but I hate that because, dude, if you're an owner and you want to win, invest. You don't win by not investing.
I know, but a lot of owners don't invest.
I know, and I hate that. I hate that. You have to invest, man. And he is the face of your franchise, and sometimes it goes so much further beyond what they're doing on the court, too. Like, I mean, the Damian Lillard is the one we all know. Like, how much he meant to the city of Portland. I think Luka was the same over there. I mean, they lost Dirk to retirement. Like, well, we're going to have this guy in a uniform just like Dirk. He's never going to wear another uniform. He's going to have a silhouette of him on the court, just like Dirk, and a statue and everything. And now, yeah, he's gone. So that's a tough pill to swallow if you're a Mavs fan.
I wouldn't be surprised if we find out a lot more about the Adelson family over the next few days, couple of weeks, in terms of their true intentions and what they're trying to accomplish down there as the majority owners of the Mavericks.
Yeah, I mean that's what you got to figure out, what they want to do. And the Supermax, man, that's a lot of money. The money came down by not being eligible for the Supermax anymore. I mean, Luka's losing $117 million of guaranteed money. I mean, that's a lot of money that I can see an owner not wanting to pay, but I still cannot wrap my head around not wanting to pay Luka Doncic, who has been one of the best players in the league since the minute he stepped on the floor. Like, if you sat there, because you're a football guy, you're sitting there. If Patrick Mahomes had put on a little bit of weight, but he's still doing Patrick Mahomes things and going to Super Bowls and stuff, do you think are the Chiefs going to trade him because they're concerned that he's just a little bit too heavy? No, it'd be dumb. You'd be mind-boggled if you saw that happen.
Well, even with him not being in tip-top shape, he's still been one of the all-time greats through the first 7 years of his career. He took the Mavericks to a Western Conference final, and last year took them to the finals and carried them on his back. He's a dominant basketball player, even if he's not in tip-top shape.
Dominant.
And he's not even in his prime.
Not even in his prime. And that's the thing here. And the rich get richer, right? Because the Lakers are sitting there with LeBron, and, yeah, they got to figure it out. But the takeaway from this is the Mavs have to hit lightning in a bottle, Chad, because if it doesn't work out in the next 2-3 years, they don't win a championship, it's right back to the drawing board. And, I mean, rebuild, right? Because they got no assets in this trade.
No.
But if you trade LeBron in the offseason and you decide to move on, you have Luka Doncic for the next freaking decade.
The only acceptable outcome for Nico is if they win a championship, which I don't think is going to happen. Here's how it's probably going to go. The Mavericks will be a good basketball team, but not win a title over the next couple of years. And then Davis and Kyrie will be washed, and they'll have no assets to really rebuild this team moving into the future. And Luka will be starring in L.A. with the Lakers, and it's going to get really messy and bad. That's how it's going to go down.
Yeah, I think that's exactly how it's going to go down. I also think for as much hate as people have thrown Rob Pelinka's way, he played the Mavs in this, man. He played them right into his hand.
How did he keep Nico from opening it up to other teams and just kept it between the two of them?
Well, did you see the latest reports of Danny Ainge not even knowing he was involved in a 3-team deal? Like he did, like, until it was too late. He didn't realize it was AD and Luka who were getting traded. But I do think that's the crazy part too, man. Like, if you are the Dallas Mavericks and you're saying, hey, we want to get off of Luka, and you don't open the doors, You would have had 29 other teams backing up the Brinks truck, offering you everything. And the fact that you brought this up as soon as it happened, but you're like, the Nets go and trade Mikal Bridges and get draft picks for like the next 20 years out of it.
5 first-rounders.
5 first-rounders for Mikal Bridges, and Luka gets you 1 and Anthony Davis.
If they would have opened it up and pursued young assets, they could have gotten a bushel in return.
A bushel. I mean, you could have set a team. You don't want to set a team up ideally in your own conference, but say you look at Oklahoma City and you're like, hey, you want Doncic? How many of those first-round picks that you have are you willing to part with, since you have a million of them and a team ready to go? Like, you could have set your team up so well.
Unbelievable.
Or
It's
like
mind-boggling,
the Spurs.
man.
What if it was Luka and Wemby?
Exactly. And they got in, and the Spurs end up getting in on De'Aaron Fox, and it's just like, wow, you were only focused on – it just seems as if not only were they a little sour on Luka for some reason, that they really had their sights set on Anthony Davis. Weird, but, I mean, here we are.
It'll be interesting to hear what comes out from both sides over the next couple of weeks. They're going to continue to try and throw Luka under the bus to try and protect their own, to make themselves look good through the process. But I have a feeling now with Luka being a competitive super athlete the way he is, it's probably going to throw a lot of gas on the fire. We're probably going to see him pay a little more close attention to his conditioning and really try to go out there and tear it up in LA now.
I think it'd be like the ultimate of, like, he doesn't like post anything on social till like 6 months from now, and he's rocking a full-on 6-pack, and he's just like a 6-pack with like a beer in his hand, preferably a Coors Light, sponsor.
You got people
show.
comparing him to Zion now.
Just come on, he's not in Zion territory.
No, but that's what you have people saying now.
But
it's
even
like
Zion, out of shape, dominates games when he's in there. The health factor is a thing, but I don't know how much that has to do with weight, but still, Luka, I just don't put in that category, man.
Well, especially from an ownership standpoint, when you got a superstar like Luka, it's good for business.
Very.
People want to show up. People want to watch games. People want to buy merchandise because he is a mega star around the world. Just put on your Mavs hat for a moment. Imagine being a Mavs fan. And you see the news that goes down. You're like, wait, what?
I can't.
You're in misery right now.
Absolutely. I mean, you look, it almost makes you kind of respect the way things went down with Dame here, right? The team tries to build around him. It's not working. He politely let it be known that he wants out of here. No bridges are burned on his way out. It hurt as a fan, but at least you saw it come and you got to prep for it, right? In Miami, Jimmy Butler's burning everything on his way out. He's just going scorched earth. In Dallas, you get the full rug pulled out from under you and have no idea it's happening. Imagine being a Dallas fan, like Keith said when he was on the phone with you a little bit ago. I was getting ready to go to bed. Imagine being a Dallas fan and you're getting into bed and you look over and realize Luka is being traded. Holy smokes.
Yep. Bridges traded for 5 first-round picks. Gobert and KD moved for 4 first-round picks. And Luka's moved for 1.
Right. And it's like, and you can and you bring up Gobert for a second. Like, you talk about all these trades that happen. It's just like, man, you set yourself up. Yeah, Gobert gets out, but you get stuff in return. You get to build with that, man. And I get AD, and like I said, he's still good. We're underselling that. But, man, if you do not win in the next year or two, you have to blow that bad boy up, and you got no assets in return to do it.
All right, we'll shift away from basketball for just a moment.
Uh-oh.
I think you'd be happy to know that ever since I got that Super Nintendo Entertainment System with all the games on it, I've been playing the original Contra for a couple of weeks now.
Good call.
And finally, as of this morning, I completed the game without dying. That's all I've tried to do. And every time I would die, no matter where I was at with the game, I would start all over again, and finally I did it.
Oh, man.
I'm now back on top where I've got each phase kind of memorized in terms of what you need to do and not do, and I pulled it off.
And those old games, man, those old games were nasty because they were built in on the rental market, right? And they didn't want you to rent it once and beat it. They wanted you to go back to Blockbuster and say, hey, can I have it for another 5 days? Here's 10 more bucks or whatever it was. So they made those games hard back in the day, man.
It was hard. What a game. What a game. It's been like a little trip back to my younger days. It's been fun, man. I've enjoyed it.
I love it.
The other thing I love is How about the Blazers right now, the way they're playing defense, the way the young guys are stepping up and continuing to play, man? It's been a lot of fun. I haven't had this much fun watching the team in years.
It's been the best stretch of games in the post-Dame era, that's for sure. It's been wonderful to watch this team putting it together. And I get where everyone wants to talk tank, and we've been going deep on that, Chad. But, I mean, technically right now the Blazers are closer to the play-in than they are the last spot in the West. And I'm not saying they're a playoff team. Neither is Chauncey. Far from it. But, man, I am a firm believer that when it's going good, don't put the brakes on it. Just let this thing play out and see where it takes you. And I think the biggest thing that I've loved about this run is, there's two things. It's A, the young guys have been the large reason for it, right? It's been Scoot, it's been Shea, it's been Tu, it's been Denny. The other thing that I really like is I think you're getting the DA that you hoped you were getting when you traded for him. And the DA that you're getting right now is proving that maybe trading him just isn't the most important thing, right? Because they still got Grant, they still got Ant, they got to move. I've always thought that DA is the hardest to move of those three. But as much as I love Donovan Clingan, you can still tell that he's still got a lot of developing to do, which is why I want to see him on the court. But, man, if you're getting these young guys in DA playing like this and then this is the result, I don't know if I'm necessarily sitting there going, oh, yeah, break that bad boy up, because there's things here that I like. And when everyone says, oh, well, Joe Cronin's messing up because he's totally messed up this entire rebuild because we're not going to get Cooper Flagg. Okay, but I argue the other way. When you have won 7 out of 8, you competed super, super hard against OKC. You beat the Bucks. You throttled the Suns. It's working. You're almost over your projected win total from the preseason. The rebuild is going in the right direction. And the biggest thing for me, Chad, is the fact that the young guys are the ones leading it right now.
Well, I'm like everyone else. I want Cooper Flagg in a Trailblazer uniform as well. But, I mean, isn't this the way it's supposed to go? You draft players, you acquire young players, you bring them in, and you develop them, and you hope that they start playing better basketball. And when they do and they start winning basketball games, that's not something that should be criticized. You should celebrate that.
Absolutely. It should not be poo-pooed. This is exactly what you want in a rebuild. Because if this team wasn't winning, that's the crazy part. Because if this team wasn't winning, instead they had lost 7 of their last 8, everyone's going to say the exact same thing. Oh, the rebuild's not working because the young guys aren't playing well and they can't win a game. At least we're going to get Cooper Flagg, but now they're winning games, and all you've wanted was the young guys to show that they're making the improvements and that there's a bright future ahead, and they're doing that right now, and I enjoy that.
I really think Scoot's turning a corner right now. I've been very, very encouraged by Scoot's play over the last few weeks.
Well, the entire month of January was by far the best month of his career, right? And then you look at that game over the weekend against the Suns, Chad. Like, you can look at it, and people like to look at points first, right? He only had 13 points, but he led the team with 9 assists in just 24 minutes of action. Incredibly efficient, and not only did he have 9 assists, Chad, he had 0 turnovers. He is playing some of the best ball he's played. And when I go back to DeAndre Ayton, look at the chemistry those two have right now. And it's imperative that if you're bringing Scoot off the bench, you're maximizing the amount of minutes he gets to play with DA. You can't tell me as a Blazer fan you did not enjoy watching Scoot Henderson throw 2, Ant throw 1, and Denny throw an alley-oop to DeAndre Ayton, and Ayton just hammer it down.
If Cronin can move Ayton during the summertime, why not just keep Rob Will?
Yeah.
And play him in Clingan.
That would be the move, right? You have to keep at least 2 of the centers, so maybe Ayton's not necessarily the bad one to keep. But
if he can't move,
one of them.
If he can't move Grant or one of the vets by the deadline this week, you think he can move all 3 during the summertime?
I don't know if he can. I think that's a hard ask. That's a hard ask. If he could, though, give him an award, GM of the year or something. That'd be some work.
All right, Chris Burkhart's got Blazers Game Day coming up at 5. Tip-off with the Suns coming up at 7 here on 620 Rip City Radio. All right, Myles Garrett, superstar from Cleveland, has requested a trade. I'm surprised it took this long. If I were playing in Cleveland, I would request a trade too. What a trash city that is. He put out a letter and said, as a kid, dreaming of the NFL, all I focused on was the ultimate goal of winning a Super Bowl. And that goal fuels me today more than ever. My love for the community of Northeast Ohio and the incredible fan base of the Cleveland Browns has made this one of the toughest decisions of my life. And if by toughest he means easiest decisions, I believe him. These past 8 years have helped shape me into the man I am today. While I've loved calling this city my home, my desire to win and compete on the biggest stages won't allow me to be complacent. The goal was never to go from Cleveland to Canton. It has always been to compete for and win a Super Bowl. With that in mind, I have requested to be traded from the Cleveland Browns. Signed, Myles Garrett. Yeah, I can't blame him. Cleveland's a joke, and their franchise is a joke, and the Browns are trash, and the ownership is ridiculous. Just look at the deal they gave Deshaun Watson. $230 million fully guaranteed. And he's a creepo because he enjoys massage. So, yeah, I can't blame Myles Garrett. He wants to go elsewhere.
A massage.
And when you work as hard as Myles Garrett does, he's like, enough is enough. I'm ready to move on. I can tell you one thing, Myles, you are never going to win a championship in Cleveland. It's not happening. The Browns had some great teams at the end of the 80s with Bernie Kosar and Ernest Biner, Webster Slaughter, Brian Brennan. They had some great teams, and they couldn't get over the hump because of John Elway. But ever since the franchise was brought back, it's been a disaster, a laughingstock. And so Myles Garrett wants out. Now, Roger Goodell has also had a chance to comment on a few different topics with this being Super Bowl week, and he was asked today about, the Chiefs getting preferential treatment from the officials. Here's what he had to say.
Officiating has favored the Chiefs, not my perception, public perception. How much of a concern is that for you in the league?
Well, this sort of reminds me a little bit of the script, right? That I write a script, and I have the script for the entire season. Listen, I think from a lot of those theories are things that happen in social media, and they get a new life. As you say, it's not your theory, but it's out there. Nobody wants it to be their theory. And so I understand it. I think it reflects a lot of the fans' passion. And I think it also is a reminder for us how important officiating is. And I think the men and women that officiate in the NFL are outstanding. They have the highest possible standards. That's a ridiculous theory for anyone who might take it seriously. But at the end of the day, it's something we always have to continue to work on. How do we make our officiating better at all times? And if you look at the Chiefs' record, which I think is an amazing thing, people talk about the competitiveness of our league. The Chiefs, with their 15 wins, 15-2 this year, 11 of those 15 games were within one score. And I think that talks about the competitiveness of our game and the importance of how we officiate it, but also the competitiveness of how we play it.
There's Roger Goodell. Of course the Chiefs get some preferential treatment. Star teams and star players do. Where I draw the line is this idea that somehow the Chiefs are lucky that they wouldn't be where they're at if it wasn't because of, the benefit of the doubt with the officials. Yeah, there are calls that go the Chiefs' way. And I think leagues, we've seen this for years now. The Lakers regularly got calls. The star players do. And Patrick Mahomes will. But they're great. And they execute well. They're well coached. They develop. And they're great with situational football. They know how to win because they're well coached. And they got players who execute incredibly well in clutch situations. But I think the league's going to continue to come under more scrutiny, not just in the matter of the Chiefs, but now that, gambling has become widespread and has been legalized, and many other states are jumping on board with the sports gambling, people are going to continue to pay more and more attention to the officiating. And I don't know what the solution is. I think what you need to do is have the eye in the sky. You need more technology to be able to assist the humans on the field or in the NBA, the court, to be able to make sure you're getting the calls right. That's what it comes down to. You've got to get the calls right because there's too much money being wagered on these games now. And I would want to go out of my way if I were the commissioner to make sure that we're using everything at our disposal to make sure that we don't miss calls, or if a call is wrong, that we correct it and get it right. So that way, no one can question the integrity of the game. You won't have people complaining with games where the outcome is determined by a call or a bad call. And, especially when you're talking about point spreads, it's crazy. But Roger Goodell, that's a situation he's going to continue to deal with. But the Chiefs, I don't think they're lucky. I don't think they're fortunate to be where they're at. I think they're the best team of football, and they have Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo and Travis Kelce and Chris Jones and guys that have been there and done that and are quite comfortable operating in the clutch. So I do agree that the officiating is questionable, but I don't like teams like the Chiefs, having something taken away from them because I watch them. I know how good they are, just like you do. And by the way, I still think the Chiefs are going to win the game on Sunday, and I think if you bet against Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, you're crazy. Nico Harrison would bet against Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. I would not. You can't do it because it's going to be a one-score game. This will be a close football game. It's going to be one score, and who do you trust in that situation? Well, I trust the best quarterback and the best coach because this is going to be a tight football game. And I respect the Eagles a ton. They've done a heck of a job. Their offensive line play, their defensive line play, they are tough in the trenches. They have a great roster filled with talent, and they can run the football. That's going to be their biggest hope. One, don't turn it over. Two, you've got to control the clock with Saquon Barkley and limit the number of possessions that Patrick Mahomes gets. And then you've got to be tight, and you got to play clean football in those clutch situations. Because I think we all know how this is going to end. It's going to come down to the final possession, and those are the situations that Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes thrive in. Thrive! But I respect Jalen Hurts, too. He's good for 2 to 3, crazy big plays per game. I love the way that they have, got Saquon Barkley involved in that offense and the way they run the football. And they play with a certain nastiness on defense, which I respect. And I can't wait for the game. I think it's going to be great. Two best teams in football getting a chance to go head-to-head, and I think it's going to be a terrific matchup. And the line has been pretty static from the opening line up until now. But that's how I see it going down. The Chiefs are going to win, and they'll make it 3 in a row, and they'll be the first team ever to win 3 straight Super Bowls, which is crazy. There's certain things in life where you're like, I don't know if that's ever going to happen. I had my doubts about 3 straight Super Bowls, but that was before I knew Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid together and the rest of their crew. All right, that's going to do it for me. We're back tomorrow at the same time. The Blazers, back-to-back nights, will play basketball. Tonight, the Suns. Tomorrow, the Pacers. And I'll be back here at Moda tomorrow at 3 o'clock. My man Chris Burkhardt's got Blazers game day coming up next. And then tip-off is coming up tonight at 7. So you guys have a good night. Enjoy the game. Enjoy game day with Burkhardt. And I'll talk to you tomorrow at 3.